You know how Reginald Wayne Miller just loves to write letters? Well, we have another one. I decided to release it on a very special date for old Reg. Today is the 11th anniversary of Reggie's plea agreement with the United States of America on charges of fraud in foreign labor contracting, visa fraud, and willful failure to pay minimum wage. So happy plea bargain day, you slaggy old queen. Welcome to, or welcome back to, the Agatha May Detective Agency. I'm Agatha May, and I'm so glad you're here for another episode about my favorite idiot. After Reggie was arrested, indicted, and convicted on federal charges of trying to bring back slave labor and student visa fraud, he wrote a letter to the judge who presided over his case, praying the good judge allow him early release. Let's have a little read of Reggie's letter. August 8th, 2017. Dear Judge Harwell, I am sincerely requesting that you remove my last year of supervision, which begins in October. I have spent nearly 4 months in prison, 14 months awaiting sentencing, 12 months of house arrest, 500 hours of community service, arranged for $70,000 to be paid according to the court decree, 1 year of probation, and 1 year of supervised release. I have tried to do everything the court has required of me. I believe that my probation officers, Mr. Suttles and Mr. Adams, will speak well of the time I have been under their supervision. In the fall of 2016, my attorney, on my behalf and with the recommendation of my parole officers, and no objections of the prosecutor, requested that you would terminate the supervised release. I was told that your response was that it was too soon. I respect that decision and have met all my reports timely and do not know of anything that I have failed to do properly and according to the requirements of the court and my officers. Last year, when my attorney requested the early release, he shared with you my medical records that showed at the time that I had only a 50% chance of living for 2 years. Due to all the people who depend on my help in many countries, including my orphanage in India that has suffered from my inability to go and give them the attention and support they need, I very much wanted to get back to the mission field as soon as I could. In the spirit of full disclosure, after being in MUSC for nearly 3 weeks this summer, they performed an 8-hour operation that had never been done in South Carolina and only a couple of times in our nation. The result is they believe that they have resolved and healed the parts of the heart interior and exterior that was causing the ventricular fibrillation from an electrical problem in the heart and causing my defibrillator to constantly go off, trying to bring the heart back from certain death. Dr. Jeffrey Winterfield called it medical history being made. Due to this change in my heart condition, the call and the need to go to my various mission projects around the world is even so much greater. I have one graduate in Pakistan who has founded 13 churches with buildings, 40 home churches, has crowds up to 10,000 in Muslim Pakistan, and has begged me over and over for the past 2 years to come and spend several months helping and showing them how to set up a Bible college, to train all the converts coming in, and to send out more preachers and teachers to handle the great revival they are experiencing. My knowledge in these areas can do so much good for so many people, as I am a year away from being 70 and need to make every day count to help others. I humbly ask that you give me early termination for my next year of supervised release beginning in October. I cannot get a passport or travel outside the U.S. as long as I remain under supervised release. Living with and helping people in third world countries is not a vacation. My desire to travel is not based upon a desire to vacation, etc., but the desire to serve and make a difference in the lives of so many others as attested to you in the nearly 100 letters and emails you received prior to my sentencing. Thank you for this consideration, Reginald W. Miller. Well, that's an awful lot of words to just say, "Can I have special treatment?" We'll talk about Reggie's sentence here in a minute. First, I have a few thoughts about this letter. Who paid Reggie's $70,000 fee? Reggie is the one who said he's never had more than $1,000 in his bank account at one time. So who paid it? Maybe his mother? John Paul? Or does Reggie have a big fat piggy bank where he keeps money from selling feet pics? Poor Reggie was so close to death, he just had to get to India to help his orphanage before it was too late. Well, I'd like to know what orphanage that was. And if he had ministries in India and in Pakistan, why did he stop going to India? I wonder if it was for the same reason he allegedly isn't going back to Pakistan. That being, there's allegedly an arrest warrant out for him for paying for the attention of young boys and possibly being involved in setting up a false rape accusation. I mean, even Charles I Don't Beat My Wife Randall has managed to stick with the same country for about 20 years so far. So what gives, Reg? And then Reggie has to go into how he was almost dead every day because his darn defibrillator kept going off. Can you imagine if he had one that went off every time he lied or whined about something? He would be like a human bug zapper in the middle of July. So who's the one graduate who started 53 churches? And I'm not sure that telling the judge that you want to help them set up a college would go very far, considering the reason you were having to beg for early release was because of the way you ran your own college. I do like that Reggie thinks he needs to clarify that his mission work, and I use that term so loosely, wasn't a vacation. I think most people realize that when you say you're doing mission work, you aren't going to party and lounge by the pool. It kind of makes me wonder if that's exactly what Reggie was doing. There have been accusations that in Pakistan, Reggie, who was known as the great gay white American preacher, was living in a place called Eden Garden with his quote unquote adopted son, Solomon, which sounds more plausible than Reggie living in a tent, using leaves for toilet paper, and using a goat to dry off his hands. I'll leave a link to that episode about the whole freaky soap opera in the description. And I just love that Reggie has to say, I humbly ask that you give me early termination. Only Reg would ask humbly after spending an entire letter telling the judge how important he is. Now let's talk about Reggie's sentence and the reason he was in this whole mess. So here's what the students alleged in their interviews with the FBI. Their names have been redacted, so I'll just call them Student 1, 2, 3, etc. On May 21st, 2014, an interview was conducted with Student 1, and she stated that on May 12th, 2014, she received an email from Dr. Miller threatening that if she does not show up for graduation at the college, then Dr. Miller would cancel her status in her F1 optional practical training. She also stated that Dr. Miller conducts most of his correspondence using a laptop. On May 21st, 2014, an interview was conducted with Student 2, who's a student at Cathedral Bible College, who advised he is here on scholarship. Immediately after arriving, he noticed that the classes were not real and they are set around a work schedule which is set by Dr. Miller. Student 2 stated he works approximately 30 to 35 hours per week at the school. He stated on May 14, 2014, he was working outside with 3 other individuals, 2 of which were Americans. When it started to rain, the Americans were allowed to go inside, but he and the other individual were told to keep working by Dr. Miller. Dr. Miller also threatened to call the police if he complained. Student 2 stated he was supposed to be paid $50 per week according to the contract with the college, and that it is normal for him to work additional hours outside of his work schedule. Student 2 also said that he goes to Dr. Miller's residence twice a month to do work. On May 21st, 2014, an interview was conducted with Student 3, who stated he was told to teach science at the college while he is a student there, but he has no training in teaching science. He also said that he tutors Dr. Miller's grandson at the college and also runs the audio-visual equipment at the college. Student 3 said that Dr. Miller is the one who makes the schedule for the work at the school and that he is afraid to say anything to Dr. Miller for fear of being expelled. He also stated that he has done work at Dr. Miller's residence in the past. On May 21st, 2014, an interview was conducted with Student 4, who stated he was a student at the college and would work approximately 32 hours per week and get paid $50 per week most of the time. Before coming to the United States, he was told he would only be working 15 to 20 hours per week. Dr. Miller told Student 4 if he didn't like his work, he could go home to Nepal, or he would call the Immigration and Naturalization Service. On May 21st, 2014, an interview was conducted with student 5, who stated he was a student at the college and said he worked 32 to 33 hours per week and was getting paid $50 per week. He said recently he received a raise and is now making $91 per week. On May 21st, 2014, an interview was conducted with student 6, who stated he was a student at the college and he was told he would make $100 per week for work study, but only makes $50 per week. He stated that he works between 46 to 56 hours per week and that he worked for over 2 months without any pay. He said that he has been to Dr. Miller's residence multiple times to do work. On May 21st, 2014, an interview was conducted with student 7, who stated he was a student at the college and worked about 40 hours per week while earning $50 per week. At one point, Dr. Miller told him he needed to work harder in order to receive the necessary paperwork to return back to the United States from a visit to Costa Rica to visit his family. When Dr. Miller finally gave him his paperwork, Dr. Miller told him when he returned from Costa Rica, he would then work 28 hours per week, but get paid $25 per week until his work improved. On May 21st, 2014, an interview was conducted with student 8, who stated he was a student at the college on scholarship and that he works about 30 hours per week. At one point, Dr. Miller told him he could have Americans do his work and he could go back to Peru. He also stated when he first arrived, he did not get paid for over a month while he was working. These students didn't have any reason to lie. They were probably scared to come forward and tell the truth to begin with, especially with Reggie threatening them with deportation. So bravo to them for speaking up. And here are the charges that Reggie ended up with in his plea agreement. Counts 1 and 2, fraud and foreign labor contracting. Defendant did recruit, solicit, or hire a person outside the United States, or caused another person to recruit, solicit, or hire a person outside the United States, or attempted to do so, for purpose of employment in the United States, by means of materially false or fraudulent pretenses, representations, or promises regarding that employment, and that the defendant did so knowingly with intent to defraud. Counts 3 and 4, visa fraud. Defendant made a false statement in an immigration document. The false statement was made in an application required by the immigration laws or regulations of the United States. That the false statement was subscribed as true under penalty of perjury under 28 U.S.C. 1746. That the false statement was material to the activities or decisions of the Bureau of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and that the defendant did so knowingly. Counts 5 and 6, willful failure to pay minimum wage. Defendant did willfully fail to pay the applicable minimum wage to employees, and employees were engaged in commerce or employed in an enterprise engaged in commerce covered by the Fair Labor Standards Act. Now, I know this will come as a shock, but Reginald has a tendency to downplay the events that earned him an FBI raid. In an email back in May of 2024, Reggie sent the Daily Mail an email because of course he did. He wrote the email to stick up for his little mini-me John Paul, but being Reg, he just had to defend himself in it too. So here's what he wrote about his federal indictment. Quote, in 2014, I had signed 2 student visas that they knew English because I had been led to believe they did. When they got here, they did not know English. I was supposed to have reported them but did not, giving them English lessons instead. I therefore committed visa fraud by not reporting them and pled guilty to that. The only reason I was in prison leading up to the pleading is that I had no money for bail because I have never maintained a balance greater than a couple of thousand since all my life has been given to helping others. The other 2 charges was 2 students who had worked over the 20-hour requirement of how much they could work. I had considered some of their hours to be training. End quote. Reggie, you are such a schmuck. You just can't admit when you've done anything wrong, can you? Your son is the same way, and your buddy Troy Taylor, who we're going to talk about again pretty soon because Troy is cuckoo. So why minimize what you did, Reg? Anyone with just a few brain cells can work out that the FBI was investigating you for a pretty good reason. There was no training. And please, for the love of little green monkeys, stop giving people English lessons until you work on your own. So poor Reggie had to spend 4 months in prison. Then he had 12 months of house arrest, 500 hours of community service, a year of probation, and 2 years of supervised release. What he could have gotten was a fine of $510,000, 20 and a half years in prison and 7 years of supervised parole. So I think what he got was more than generous, but it still wasn't good enough for Reggie because he is the most specialist Reginald that has ever Reginalded. If you ever want to know how John Paul got to be such a big, whiny, lying man baby, the crapple doesn't fall far from the tree. Thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe as this helps my channel grow. If you'd like to financially support my work so I can continue to make content, you can become a member through YouTube or through Patreon, and I always have links to both in my description. I'll be back soon with more of the Miscreant Millers. Until next time, stay safe and be happy.